I was watching this YouTube channel, gang, and it's called Legion of Men. And normally he gives advice to young men about what they can expect in the now as well as in the future. And he was actually watching and doing a reaction to a 38-year-old who was, for the past 12 years, was with the same woman. They had a child together that was 8 years old. And since COVID started in 2020 or 2019, he had pretty much taken on the role of a stay-at-home dad. And he was urging other people that were in that scenario not to actively become stay-at-home dads, because it ends up fostering resentments between the wife or the mom and the father. Because what happens, according to him, is that basically they made a decision when their child was born that because she was in a job that brought in more money, he was going to go ahead and be a stay-at-home dad. And what happened is, because he stopped providing financially for the family, it ended up making her feel disillusioned with the relationship. And apparently, before they actually split up, she actually started dating other men and had actually started getting a pretty steady boyfriend on the side. And
I want the help of the internet to figure out if I'm crazy and I'm the asshole in the situation, or it is the other person. So let me set the stage for you. Today is New Year's Eve, and my son's mother came by so that I could spend some time with my son, considering I got screwed out of time for Christmas, so I didn't get to see him on Christmas. So she came by, and we just started driving to a McDonald's that had a playground. But on the car ride, I'm sorry if the wind is that bad out here. Come on, man. Anyways, Jesus Christ. Of course, I want to make a video. Anyways, so, you know, during the car ride, everything's fine. She just casually asks me, says, "Hey, I want to ask you a question." I say, "Okay." And then she goes on to ask me about, during our time together, did my insecurities ever like mess up our relationship? Some shit like that, right? Along those lines. And it was basically, the question she was asking was because of the new man that she's fucking, her insecurities of when she used to be thick and used to be a pog. She was thick, man. She had a nice body. Real nice. Curvy, thick. Very nice ass. She's lost a lot of weight. Almost like too much. She doesn't look good at all. It doesn't fit her frame. The way she looks the best is a little thicker. Not fat, you know, not big, but just thick. Well, apparently her being too skinny is her insecurities are causing issues in her sex life, and she figured today, right now, would be the perfect time to ask my ex, who she knows is already having a difficult time in life, who doesn't have a woman, doesn't have anybody, finds it very hard to even date anyone. I have no one in my life, and she knows that. She knows that my life has been very difficult. And let's just go ahead and ask him a question to help the other man that I'm fucking, and not him.
so this is the guy that we're talking about on today's walk, and you can see, in addition to having no place to go and no job, he misses his child. He's no longer in his woman's life. And then her reward for him is, "Hey, I want to ask you a question to better my relationship with this new dude that I'm with." Right? Usually somebody breaks up with you officially when they have somebody else waiting in the wings. So this guy was 38, and the reason it kind of rang true to me is because when I was in my mid to late 30s, I kind of had a situation where I was in a relationship and we split up as well. 10 years before that, when I was 27, or 29, excuse me, I went through like a divorce. No, I was actually 27 or 28. I went through a divorce. So I've had 1 or 2 different times where I had to kind of start over from scratch. But I can tell you one thing, if you try to tackle your bills, try to get back on your feet, it is possible. Does not happen overnight. Sometimes you need a little bit of a support system, and that was one of the things he was lacking. Where I had a couple of friends that if in a pinch I could go and stay at their house, or I had family members, this guy was saying that he grew up with a single parent household where his mom was not very good at bills and she would not allow his father into his life, so he didn't have certain skills and backup plans that he felt like other 38-year-old men had. So in one regard, I know exactly what he's going through, because I felt like when I was 38, I was kind of starting over. But at the same time, I'm so glad at 48 that I tackled those bills, got back on my feet, and I know that if I was 38 and restarting over again now, I would feel just as devastated as he would. So check this out. His wife's great grandma, and by the way, he didn't really distinguish if they were married or just a long-term couple. Either way, they were together for 12 years and their son was 8 going on 9 years old. The lady's great grandmother perished, passed away, left them a pretty good nugget of money to her grandma. Her grandma, her mom, and her ended up going in and purchasing a home, but instead of them saying, hey, we want you to come move in, right, so it's one big happy family, they let him know that he wasn't in their future plans. So that's kind of devastating too, right? Also, because he's been a stay-at-home dad for so long, he probably didn't necessarily have that much confidence when it came to finding a job, because he was saying that basically he was unemployed and he's been looking like crazy. But then he said one thing that was kind of upsetting. Guys, he actually said, I'm not looking for your typical 9-to-5 job. I'm of the belief that if you're broke and it's between going homeless, right, or living in a shelter or roughing it for a little while, I'm of the approach that you need to go get a job no matter what it is. And Legion of Men, the actual guy himself, was saying that same thing. He's like, wait a minute, if you're borderline homeless, your girl left you, you don't have any family members or friends that you can turn to, and you're literally going to be homeless, that's when you have to take any job. And that's when you're ideally wanting a full-time job. And it was just really weird, because here was this guy, and he was basically saying, because my mother raised me by herself, I learned how to live from a woman that was always paycheck to paycheck and completely broke. And because she would not allow his father into his life, he was basically saying that he didn't have any skills. I mean, I don't know if he's talking mechanical skills, you know, being able to build stuff and being in construction, because it sounded like, according to the video, his goal and what he was doing to find work is he was going up to strangers at the 7-Eleven, asking them if they wanted their yard mowed and stuff. Now that might fly if you're, 14 or 15 years old, and it might even fly if you have a group of men that are willing to help you do a landscape business. But would any of you guys just have a random stranger come up to you at the parking lot and say, yeah, come over to my house, I want you to mow my backyard? It's one of those things where it's like, you got to go put your resume out, and basically if you have to work fast food, I think sometimes you got to bust out the humbleness and go work fast food. Do whatever you got to do. He was saying he doesn't have any family members left except for a half-brother, Brian. And apparently when he went to try to stay with his half-brother, Brian, his brother told him, that's not going to work out. So that's even another thing that's kind of tough when it comes to men and women. A lot of times I think it is easier for women to reach out to their friends and their family members and secure a place on the couch in their living room. Or at least it's a lot easier, I think, for women than for men. God, I remember a handful of years back, I had like a buddy that's, I don't even know how to explain Matt, but my buddy Matt is one of these guys that he was a friend of mine loosely when we were students and kids, you know, and then he was a friend of mine as an adult, but again, it was loosely. And what I mean by loosely is, you know, you might see somebody once or twice a year at the grocery store and say hi. And I remember one time he just kind of came up to me and was like, hey, is it okay if I crash at your place for a little while? And guys, I feel bad. You should always be there for your friend. But again, it wasn't really like one of these friends that I was super duper close with. So I don't exactly remember the words I said, but ultimately I said, you know, oh hell no, that ain't gonna happen. It was funny too, because he was talking about how in order to find a job, he rides up to 7-Eleven on his skateboard. So again, that guy in the parking lot, imagine him coming up to you on his skateboard. You're probably thinking, oh my God, this guy is down on his luck. I don't know if I want to invite him over to my house to come mow my yard or whatever the situation might be. Another thing that's tough is he was saying that he's tired of women. He's not interested in women. He just wants to earn money and change his life, right? He was saying how he wanted to be an influencer, which just goes to show you even 38-year-olds that need to find a real job all want to be YouTube stars. God, I could have told him not to do that. Go get a real job that pays. No woman's gonna want a guy that's homeless, broke, and on a skateboard. So I feel for that guy. He needs to do like a 2 to 5 year plan before he probably even thinks about inviting a woman into his miserable life. Everyone's advice based on this video was, yes, don't ever volunteer to take on the role of a stay-at-home dad. Whether you're a guy or a gal, let me know your thoughts. Do you guys think that that's probably pretty good advice no matter what you have to do, even if it involves daycare and stuff? You're better off working rather than being a stay-at-home dad. Now, I know some people out there are going to think, God, that just sounds wrong. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom. There shouldn't be anything wrong with being a stay-at-home dad. And I would agree with you in theory, but the reality is if a guy ends up finding himself in this situation where his workplace skills have eroded, where he's got no money saved up, where all of a sudden the lease is up and he's being kicked out, and the girl that he thought he was going to spend eternity with, all of a sudden she wants nothing to do with him, and his family's all passed away except for his brother Brian that's not going to be able to help him much. You know, my thinking is that's when it's time to go get the membership at Planet Fitness so you have a place that you can take a daily shower at. See if your brother Brian can let you eat with him a couple days a week if you're really hungry, and then just spend each and every waking hour of the day applying for places to work, starting with those places that are always hiring, McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King. I think we can all agree that if the guy was only 28 years old, and by the way, I'm calling him the guy because they didn't once discuss his name. So just know, random 38-year-old dude, right, on Legion of Men. Here's a picture of the guy, right? He looks like a 38-year-old guy, but he looks like a 38-year-old guy that owns a construction company or makes motorcycles or go-karts. He just looks like somebody that has skills, in my opinion. Apparently, he doesn't feel that same way. He doesn't feel like he can do much of any of those things. So I would definitely agree with him that you don't want to take a stay-at-home dad role if you're not going to try to work on yourself in some way, shape, or form. If you're home there with your son, why not take some classes online, see if you can get yourself an associate's degree, right? I mean, I know that that's what us venters would think, that hey, in the future, or to anybody that's contemplating going down this same pathway, see if you can increase your skills. See if you can find a job where you can work from home. That way you have some options. I've been working from home the past handful of years, and I can tell you that if I was forced to go back to the office tomorrow, I would go. but I would hate it. And a lot of people that have been working from home the last couple of years really dislike going into work. And while this guy wasn't working from home, he was, a stay-at-home dad, I bet you there's a real piece of him that just really doesn't like the idea of being someone's employee 8 hours a day. But you want to know something? He missed the entrepreneurial bus. If he would have been an entrepreneurial and hustled during his 20s, he might not have to go that route. But sometimes you're a victim of your circumstance, and if your circumstance is you're broke and you're being evicted, go take on the menial job until you can save up a little money. The saddest part of the video was how she kept telling him, I hope you have somewhere to go. And he was saying that what was really painful about her saying that was she knew that he was never a part of his dad's life, so he didn't have any type of relationship with that man. His mom had passed away 10 years earlier, I assume, when they were still, pretty much newlyweds or new in their relationship. And so whenever you know that somebody has nowhere to go, and you're telling them, I hope you have somewhere to go, I know what the philosophy is there. You already know he has nowhere to go, so by telling him, I hope you have somewhere to go, that's your nice way of saying you need to go find a job and you need to find someplace to go. It's so weird how when we love somebody and we're new in a relationship with them, we are willing to bend over backwards for that person. But right when we're in breakup mode and I've already moved on mode, that same person that treats you so warm and kindly, you guys know this is true, they can turn just like that. And before you know it, you're dealing with the devil himself. And it sounds to me like once she left him for that other person, she really did leave him for good. God, that makes it tough. You would like to think if there's a child involved that it would be really difficult to separate. And who knows, maybe this woman was contemplating leaving this guy for years upon years. Maybe he was coming across as just lazy. Sometimes that happens. There are men that get upset when their women don't have dinner ready for them when they get home and a clean house. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, I'm just saying there are men that get upset at that. For all we know, she could have come home every day to a child that wasn't getting the best education, to a man that was playing video games and drinking beer every day. I don't know the situation. She could have had very good reasons for splitting up with him. But it just looks to me like she probably met a more industrious guy that makes more money. That's probably what happened if you think about it. Sandy Beach, I love that name, Sandy Beach, that's a great one. Sandy Beach 3576 says, the father always gets kicked out no matter if he works or not. I've been hearing over the last year or so that the couples that get divorced most are actually lesbian couples. So imagine a situation where the judge is going through divorce proceedings and he's got two people here that are divorcing, but it's no longer a man and a woman, it's two women. Once you get used to handing decisions that involve women getting stuck with child support, it gets easier for that stuff to happen. It becomes more normalized. So I have a feeling that this time, let's say 15 or 20 years from now, I have a feeling I wouldn't be surprised if it is a little bit closer to 50-50. But again, that's going to require men to demand full custody and to actually try to get child support. You know, a lot of times we think, why do only women get awarded by the courts? Maybe it's because there's a certain percentage of men that never really try to get full custody and child support. I can tell you one thing. If it was truly a 50-50 thing where women actually paid support to men a lot more than they do, I think people would honor marriage a little bit more. I really do. I think right now we live in a society where whoever wins custody of the child is pretty much winning a pretty good chunk of change over the next, 18 years or however long until the child becomes an adult. Now, people can say, Jesse, that's just wrong. That money is supposed to go for the child. I don't know any child that needs $2,000 a month to survive, do you? And even if they did, I don't know any mom that's handing them $2,000 a month or whatever the child support tables say. And in case you're wondering, there is nobody out there paying $200 or $300 a month for child support. People are paying thousands of dollars a month for child support. And sometimes they even get the child a third of the time. There's just something really weird about the child support tables. From what I understand, I guess they're trying to make it now where the father can claim the child and not have to claim that income. I think it should have always been that way. Isn't that crazy that somebody can hand you a couple grand of child support and they have to pay the taxes on it? Meaning, in order for me to give you $2,000 a month, I have to clear about $2,500 or $2,600 just to make that happen. Meanwhile, at the end of the year, I still have to claim all that income. You, on the other hand, don't have to claim a penny of it, even though you received it. That's a scam. So I hope they are getting rid of that for equality's sake. No Name 75013 says, if he is the primary caregiver of the child, why is he not getting the kid and child support? That's always the way it works for stay-at-home moms. See, and that's one of those things I would put on judges. Why are you giving women like so many more victories when it comes to child support and child custody than the men? Is it as bad as it was in the 60s and 70s? No, but I don't think it's anywhere near 50-50 like it should be. The one thing TikTok has shown me through the past year of watching TikTok videos, there's a lot of women out there that have no shame. There's a lot of women out there that like to boast about how much money they get off their ex or off of the system or out of food stamps and all this. Man, that makes people really upset. And when you have people that just get ruined and from the age of 18 or 19 on are stuck with these child support payments, it just really gets irritating. And then if you fall behind in those payments, in some cases, the woman can get you thrown in jail. I'm telling you, it's been a real devilish spot for a lot of men and women. I'm sure you guys have dated some men in the past that had some hellacious problems with child support. I never had to go to jail or anything, but man, I can't tell you how many times I gave women money and they never gave me credit for it. That's why when you hear people say, hey, make sure you have a receipt for everything. Don't give them a single penny unless it's, through the court system so you get credit for it, because I'm telling you, people will tell you to your face that they give you credit for it and then they don't. And in case you're wondering, that only affected me once or twice, but I've still seen situations like that. And when you're behind in child support, they will garnish your tax refund. So I mean, you're talking to a guy that for a good 12 to 15 year period in my life, I never got to enjoy any one of my tax refunds. Holy moly, that's just devastating. Alec or Grune 313 says his wife lost respect for him, and then she resented him. He never had a chance. That's what happens. When you first meet a woman, she's gonna look at you as her knight in shining armor. You've got a great career, you've got a good looking body, you've got a sound mind, you make good decisions, you seem like a wonderful human being. But all of a sudden you become that guy that just sleeps on the couch and teaches your guys' kid arithmetic, and pretty soon it's just not enough. This is one of those weird situations where I don't blame the woman, because a guy that's just sitting there playing the stay-at-home dad role probably doesn't look very attractive to many women out there, At the same time, marriage and relationship is supposed to be about a teamwork. And if he is helping your son get ahead in life by home teaching him, golly, give him credit in some way, shape, or form. Women are just mean. At American Exile says, so he's starting over at 38. As an older man, I can tell you he still has time to catch up financially and more. but not if he delays. He's got to move his ass. That's true. And that's why it was so disappointing. You're hearing this guy, and he's basically just trying to get somebody to understand why he's so miserable. And you want to feel for a person like that, but when he ends his sentence with, I'm not really cut out for a 40-hour-a-week job or a typical 9 to 5, it's like, well, wait a minute. I think a real man would say, I'll take any job. I need to get myself some money. I need to get my bills paid. I need to get back on my feet. And I don't think you necessarily need to have a 2-parent household when you're growing up to come to that realization. So here's my next question for you venters, whether you're a male or female. Do you guys agree with me that if it comes down to being homeless and without a place to lay your head at night, aren't you going to take whatever job you have to, as long as it's legal? Oh, it's at McDonald's, the midnight shift? I'll take it. When was the last time you drank some Coca-Cola and had some dessert food? Probably earlier today. That's why I need you to get your shoes on and walk with me every single day. And I'll walk again with you tomorrow. I'll see you then.